Greetings, fellow time travelers. Welcome back to Historia, where we journey deep into the forgotten corners of ancient history. I'm your archaeological guide, and today we're about to uncover one of the most controversial and mysterious figures in all of Egyptian history. A pharaoh so revolutionary, so radical, that his name was erased from memory for thousands of years. For over 3,000 years, Egypt was the land of many gods. Amun-Ra, Osiris, Horus, each deity commanding magnificent temples and the hearts of millions. But then something unprecedented happened. A young pharaoh emerged who would challenge everything. His name, Akhenaten. This is the story of the world's first monotheist, a visionary who abandoned centuries of tradition to worship a single god, the golden disk of the sun, Aten. But was he a prophet ahead of his time, or a heretic who nearly destroyed Egypt? Before we dive into this mind-blowing journey, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, the secrets we're about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about ancient Egypt. Now, tell us in the comments, what time is it where you are, and where are you watching from? All right, ancient seekers, let's begin our journey into the heart of Egypt's most mysterious era. Imagine this scene with me. Over 3,000 years ago, Egypt was a land of dreams and divine power. Picture the mighty Nile flowing through golden deserts, massive temples reaching toward the heavens, and priests wielding power that rivaled the pharaohs themselves. This was the New Kingdom period, and Thebes, modern-day Luxor, was the beating heart of Egyptian civilization. Golden palaces stretched along the riverbanks, colossal statues of gods lined the avenues, and the air was thick with incense from countless temples. The god Amun-Ra ruled supreme, the king of gods, lord of wind and power, his sacred sun disk blessing all of Egypt. Osiris commanded the underworld, judging souls in the afterlife. Every god had a temple. Every temple had priests, and those priests held the real power in Egypt. Walk through the streets of ancient Thebes with me. Merchants carried silk from the east and gold from Nubia. The scent of frankincense filled the air. Priests in pristine white robes walked with unwavering confidence, carrying the secrets of the gods. These weren't just religious leaders. They controlled vast wealth, influenced pharaohs, and shaped the destiny of millions. But here's what's fascinating. Sometimes the priests of Amun were even more powerful than the pharaohs themselves. They owned more land, controlled more gold, and commanded more loyalty than the royal family. Into this world of ancient tradition and divine power, a child was born who would turn everything upside down. His name was Amenhotep IV, but history would remember him by another name entirely, Akhenaten, the Heretic Pharaoh. Now, let's talk about this remarkable young prince. Amenhotep IV was born into unimaginable privilege. His father, Amenhotep III, had led Egypt to the height of its glory. Unprecedented wealth, military dominance, and artistic achievement. His mother, Queen Tai, was a woman of extraordinary influence and intelligence, whose sharp mind could see further than most. But young Amenhotep was different from other royal children. While his brothers trained for war and learned diplomatic strategies, this prince spent hours in quiet contemplation. He would wander through palace gardens, gazing at the sun's golden disk as it crossed the sky. Something about that celestial light spoke to him, whispered secrets that no one else could hear. In the grand palace at Thebes, surrounded by massive columns carved with scenes of pharaonic victories, young Amenhotep walked alone. He listened to priests chanting their prayers to countless gods, their voices rising like wind through the stone corridors. But deep in his heart, a question was forming, a dangerous, revolutionary question. Why worship so many gods? Why not one supreme deity? One divine light that could unite all hearts and illuminate all minds. One evening, the young prince stood on a palace balcony overlooking the Nile. The sky blazed with stars, and a gentle breeze carried the river's ancient scent. He gazed upward, contemplating, questioning. This wasn't just teenage rebellion. This was the birth of a spiritual revolution that would shake Egypt to its foundations. His upbringing was anything but ordinary. Unlike his warrior siblings, Amenhotep was introspective, artistic, almost mystical. He loved art, sometimes painting with his own hands. He would spend hours watching the Nile flow, lost in thought. People whispered that his eyes held a dream, a vision that neither priests nor common people could yet understand. One intimate evening, he sat with his mother, Queen Tai. She was a woman whose eyes could pierce through deception and see the truth beneath. She spoke to him about pharaonic power, about the importance of preserving Egypt's greatness. But she also recognized something extraordinary in her son, a heart searching for ultimate truth. She sensed that he would change history, though she feared the price of such transformation. In those formative moments, questions accumulated in young Amenhotep's mind like storm clouds gathering. He heard the priests' whispers, witnessed their immense power, but also felt the constraints of tradition suffocating Egypt's spiritual life. He knew that changing Egypt would require courage beyond anything any previous pharaoh had possessed. But here's where our story takes an incredible turn. When Amenhotep IV took the throne in his early 20s, something extraordinary happened. This wasn't just another royal succession. This was the beginning of the most radical religious revolution in ancient history. Picture the royal palace in Thebes. Opulent halls adorned with golden hieroglyphs, massive pillars inscribed with the names of gods, frankincense smoke curling through every corridor, and the mighty Nile flowing just beyond the walls like an eternal storyteller. But the new pharaoh wasn't interested in maintaining the status quo. He had a vision that would challenge 3,000 years of tradition. Standing beside him was Nefertiti. And let me tell you, this wasn't just any queen. Nefertiti possessed legendary beauty, yes, but more importantly, she had a brilliant mind and unwavering strength. Her eyes reflected both power and wisdom. She wasn't merely a royal consort. She was a true partner in revolution, listening intently as Amenhotep spoke about Aten, about the sun's life-giving light. Together they began planning a future that Egypt had never imagined. Imagine this scene. One evening, the young pharaoh and his queen stood on a balcony overlooking the Nile. Moonlight danced on the water's surface, and lotus flowers perfumed the air. They discussed Egypt's future, the multiplicity of gods, and the priest's stranglehold on power. In Nefertiti's eyes, Amenhotep found confirmation. The time had come to challenge the old order. But here's what makes this absolutely fascinating. This challenge carried risks beyond imagination. In the early days of his reign, Amenhotep IV began showing signs of rebellion. He ordered the construction of small temples dedicated to Aten, not massive structures like Amun's temples, but simple, open sanctuaries that allowed pure sunlight to flood every corner. People watched in amazement. Priests whispered in anger. But the young pharaoh was determined. He believed Aten represented truth, and that Egypt desperately needed this divine light. Throughout the streets of Thebes, rumors spread about the unconventional young pharaoh and his strange ideas. Some saw him walking among common people, not with royal arrogance, but as a man carrying a dream. He spoke with artists, encouraging them to depict the sun, to illustrate life itself. It was as if he wanted to transform not just Egypt's religion, but its very soul. But this dream had enemies. The priests of Amun recognized the threat immediately. They had controlled immense wealth and influence for generations. Now they watched this young pharaoh with fear in their eyes, fear of losing everything. In secret chambers they began plotting